United States when U.S. policy is still to support the Chavismo government that still exists in Caracas. And I have to ask, your statement last night said that you felt like you were going to die at one point when you left Venezuela in the boat. Can you just tell us exactly what happened in that moment when you were in that boat? Thank you.
Well, regarding all the details of how and when I left Venezuela, for the protection of those involved and help me get here, I will wait until the regime is no longer in capacity to harm them, to share that in detail. Yes, there was a certain moment in the trip, in the boat, where I was hurt because the waves were very high, over 6 feet, and there was a strong wind, and we got lost in the ocean. We lost the sign of the GPS, and the satellite phone stopped working, and Starlink antenna did not work as well, all at the same time. So it was a very risky, dangerous, and scary moment, I have to say. And it lasted several hours. But at the end, as I say, you know, we have moved ahead de la mano de Dios. And that's why I believe it is a miracle, and I'm here. And I know that someday I will be able to tell you all the details and thank personally all those that risked their lives in order for this to happen, because they knew it was very important for our cause that I was able to leave my country at that moment. Regarding your first question, look, this has nothing to do with a tension or decision between Delcy Rodriguez and myself. This is about the cartel and justice. This is about a criminal structure that is the regime and the mandate of the Venezuelan people. That's what's at stake at this moment. I'm just one member of a huge movement of millions of Venezuelans that have decided and are committed to be free. And I have no doubt that President Trump, his administration, and the people of the United States support democracy, justice, freedom, and the mandate of the people of Venezuela. I have absolutely no doubt, not only because it's in the well-being of Venezuelan people, but as I say, because it's crucial for the American people. The United States today is a safer nation after January 3rd. And once the regime is out and the transition is accomplished, the United States will not only be a safer nation, but one that will have more prosperity and strength in our hemisphere.
Can we get Eric Martin from Bloomberg, please?
I see. Sorry. Thank you. Maria Corina, would like to ask you about the timeline for democratic transition within Venezuela, because obviously the Constitution calls for within 30 days a new election. You've already been recognized by a number of countries, including the U.S. in 2024, Edmundo Gonzalez as having won that election, and accusations that the election was stolen by the Maduro regime. As you've mentioned, you overwhelmingly won the primary in 2023. Do you have an expectation, is your expectation that the next step in this process would be a new election in Venezuela? Do you expect that to happen in 2026? Or what does the roadmap look like from getting from today's government by Delcy Rodriguez, the government de facto that is in control, to a democratically elected government? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Well, if the Venezuelan Constitution were respected, we wouldn't have 1,000 political prisoners. We wouldn't have 9 million people, fleeing and living around the country. We wouldn't have our president-elect exiled in Madrid. I mean, he would have taken power on January 9, 2024. So 2025, sorry. So we realize that there's no rule of law in Venezuela. I don't know actually if you're aware, Venezuela is currently in the last place globally in terms of rule of law. Out of 142 countries that have been evaluated by the World Justice Project, Venezuela is in place 142. So much for the Constitution. At the end, it is a matter of strength, and that was what made this process, started on January 3rd, happened. I mean, that was the main difference. The regime realized that they are facing the strength of the people organized, but mostly, in this last phase, the strength of the democratic allies that are concerned about the structure of the regime, of the criminal regime in Venezuela. So this is a process that has several phases. We are in one that it's complex, as I said, in which the regime is forced to dismantle themselves. Some of the structures that have been maintaining them in power, starting with the repression system that requires not only that all political prisoners are liberated, but that they are free. The fact that you are not in a prison doesn't mean that you are free. In Venezuela, they have left the jails, but they cannot speak to the press. They cannot leave the country, and they are still terrified. All torture centers have to be closed, and certainly there have to be guarantees for journalists to speak out and those who have left the country to come back and organize and make the will of the people be respected. Eric, believe me, I understand the urgency. I have been speaking with the families, not only of those that have been freed or liberated these last hours, but especially with those that have not, and that they don't know where their loved ones are right now. They have simply disappeared. I'm talking about hundreds of people. Actually, we found out in these last hours that there were more political prisoners than we thought, because many families had been scared just even to denounce that their loved ones had been in prison or disappeared by the regime. So some of those that have been liberated were not even registered by us. So, and this is still in place. I mean, there is a criminal structure of terror, not only on the civilian population, but also in the military. So that one of the main urgencies and priorities that have to take place in the days to come is we need to dismantle that terror structure by the DRM or La Casa Militar, which are those that have committed crimes against humanity, and that are those that have not only the civilian but the military under terror and neutralized. Once these steps are taken, then we can move forward in the reinstitutionalization of our government, and eventually we will have free and fair elections. And I'm talking about governors, mayors, National Assembly. We need to have, the will of the people be expressed freely. I have to remember that in the last election, presidential election, where our president-elect Edmundo González won, nearly 40% of Venezuelans that have a right to vote couldn't do it because the regime wouldn't allow them. That's one of the main things we need to correct. Every single Venezuelan living in Venezuela or abroad should have the right to vote as soon as possible. Thank you.
Gaby Peroso from BPI, please.
Hola, Gladys. Ahí tienes el micrófono.
Sorry. Gracias. Quería que nos dijeras lo que se pueda revelar de la reunión con el presidente Donald Trump, por ejemplo, la importancia del reconocimiento al presidente electo Edmundo González, un cronograma electoral, eso se habló, hay posibilidades ciertas de esas dos cosas. Y en segundo lugar, una pregunta que se hacen los venezolanos, tu retorno a Venezuela, saliste con condiciones distintas. Ahora Estados Unidos también está involucrado en eso. También se habló de eso con el presidente Donald Trump, la conveniencia que vuelvas o no. Y para poner lapsos a Carnaval, Semana Santa, ¿cómo lo podemos medir? Porque los venezolanos se lo preguntan. Gracias.
Gracias, Gladys. Te entiendo, porque, como lo dije antes en inglés, para nosotros es un tema de vida o muerte. Miles de venezolanos cada día que pasa. Es una tortura, es una tragedia y es un tema de la urgencia ética asociada a poder realmente iniciar un proceso de reconstrucción del país y que regresen los venezolanos que se han ido. Como ustedes comprenderán, los detalles de la conversación con el presidente no lo voy a hacer público, es parte, por eso fue una conversación privada y yo soy rigurosamente respetuosa de los términos de cada conversación. Sí, porque esto depende de lo que yo dije y que además lo he dicho públicamente, voy a decirles que por supuesto que insistí en mi deseo de regresar a Venezuela lo antes posible. Y lo voy a hacer. Voy a regresar a Venezuela lo antes posible. Y evidentemente fue un tema que discutimos y todo lo que ello implica. Pero no soy solo yo. Son millones de venezolanos, otros compañeros, líderes políticos de otros partidos que también quieren hacerlo. Incluso ayer algunos senadores hablaban de ir a Venezuela, lo dijeron públicamente, lo declararon. Y les bueno, quizás hasta podemos ir juntos. Es decir, yo creo que hay mucha gente en el mundo preparándose para ir a Venezuela porque sabemos que este es un proceso irreversible. Puede tomar un día más, puede tomar un día menos. Puede haber alguna fase que no nos la habíamos previsto o que no nos gusta. Eso es verdad. Es un proceso tremendamente complejo, desmontando una estructura que tiene 27 años en el poder, destruyendo todo, aliados con los rusos, con el régimen iraní, entregando nuestras riquezas a China, ofreciendo el territorio venezolano para que opere Hezbollah, Hamas, los carteles de la droga, la guerrilla colombiana. Todo ha entrado, persiguiendo a la sociedad, acabando con nuestras instituciones. Y no pudieron. Tenido toda la plata del mundo. Por aquí tenía yo la cifra de lo que fue, lo que le ha entregado el régimen chavista desde el 99 hasta este año en petróleo venezolano regalado a Cuba. Estamos hablando de cerca de 5 billones de barriles de petróleo. Es una cifra monumental, regalada. Entonces a mí no me vengan a decir que quién se está agarrando el petróleo en Venezuela en este momento. O sea, han saqueado Venezuela. Y aún así el país está de pie, decidido, unido, y pueden tener la seguridad que nosotros vamos a convertir a Venezuela, ahora sí, en el milagro latinoamericano.
So this was supposed to last until noon. It is now noon, but if everyone's game to stay, we stay. Paolo Mastrolli from La Repubblica, please.
¿Dónde está? No veo. Allá. Paolo, está el...
Thank you very much for doing this. You met in Rome with Pope Leo. Can you talk about what you discussed with him, if the OLC is willing and able to help you in this transition?
Thank you very much. That was a very important meeting. I'm a Catholic, as you know, and believe me, during my trip, I prayed a lot. So I was able not only to talk to him, but to present to him some of the rosaries that I had brought with me during the trip.